And then the photo there to the right is just, they just poured it that morning. The image is flipped, and then they pour it, and then when it's cured, they stand it up and set it in place, and there you go. So it's important that they get everything done now, because moving electrical boxes in concrete is not going to happen in the future, so you gotta get it done right now. Hopefully you're able to get down and see this image, and this is down on the west end, lowest level by the pool entrance, and that's currently closed right now. The pool entrance is closed, but this is that stairwell that goes up, and that awesome image of the eagles flying in the background, and the big eagle head right there. And I hope that the kids really, and patrons really, enjoy that fun graphic right there. There are no change orders today as far as this last month that needed to go to the board. So we're on track and moving Skyline as quickly and as efficiently as we can.
Just wanted to recognize again how tricky it is to build that building while all the students are in the building, and thank you to students, neighbors, construction workers, teachers, everybody for being patient through that, because it's a lot of people who are having to be patient through it, I think.
Moving on across the valley to Cypress High School, plenty of work going on the retaining wall systems throughout the property. The gym and pool tilt walls have been set. We, of course, have been working hard on the orchestra pit and the rest of the auditorium. Auditorium tilt walls are being prepared on their panels, prepped with all of the steel and incoming utilities, as Justin was just referring to, and getting those concrete pours lined up. And, of course, we continue with different underground electrical and plumbing. And I will tell you that this picture, just to my eye, as we say, time flies in a week. This picture, I think, is about 9 days old. And as you start to look at the building, you see a crane in there with not a lot of steel around it. There's 3 times as much steel in that building today as there was 10 days ago. They are moving at a very rapid clip, and every time I see the imagery or I go out on site, it's satisfying to see, in this case, their subcontractor, Clegg Steel, out working very hard. We're preparing again the retaining walls and the underground storm drain chambers on site. A lot of work going on by their subcontractor, Kenny Sang, out there as weather is holding, good temperatures, dry, etc. Again, the gym and pool area, you start to see the roofing deck go on, and then the B deck there on the second level. And like I say, 3 times the amount of steel going up today if you were on site. Taking a look at the orchestra pit and the auditorium. Really happy to report that walking on that slab, it is a very nice, well poured, no cracks, smooth looking slab for our auditorium. So I think, kudos to that team that put down that concrete. It's pretty stuff. Again, for folks in our industry, we think that's pretty.
Can I ask a quick question? This
Yes, ma'am.
Nothing to do with anything, but do you know if the pit is going to be hydraulic? Is it going to go up and down?
Both pits in the new high schools are hydraulically operated. Actually, I think I would classify them as a screw drive system, not a traditional hydraulic lift.
Okay.
So they're very nice lifts.
So but they are manual lift and not.
No, they are automatic. They are powered.
Automatic? Okay, so powered.
Yeah, in a powered screw drive system with electric motors.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
Hydraulic lifts have a tendency to leak, et cetera, so we went with the screw drive system on this one.
Perfect. I just wondered. Thanks.
Yeah. As we've been teasing for the last couple of months, we did have a soils change order come to you, so there was a $160,000 change order approximate. That was down from our original panic, well over $500,000. I think our original numbers were $560,000 to $570,000. Again, you do your best to test the soil to see what's suitable for construction and backfill. We ran out. We worked with them to reuse some materials on site to mix, to also change the elevation of the baseball and softball field to better meet ADA slopes and to eliminate costs of exporting materials. And then, as we mentioned in our letter, we're using some of the material in the crane path, some of that nice base material for backfill as well. So we're reusing and recycling as best we can, and we felt, one, we knew we had to do that soils change order, but two, just working hard with the team to mitigate the financial impacts, to mitigate the amount of double and triple effort of moving soils. So that one, it's a big-ish number, but what we started at versus how the team came together, we're pretty okay with that cost. Moving on to our good friend. Oh,
I'm sorry, can I just say real quick, if you've been out to Cypress, I was just mentioning to the superintendent this afternoon, it's crazy how fast the homes are being inhabited and around there. Everything, the first row of housing, was there 10 or so to the west? People are living in those. It's just crazy already. And we took Rob McDaniel, the principal, out there last week. And his point is, boy, they're not going to be excited because it's been dark out there for a while. And as soon as that first football game in 3 years happens, right? But we were there first, and we're doing our best to keep it on our property. But it's crazy how fast the homes are popping up out there.
The difference is we positioned this site intentionally on the exterior of the development, and really what's bothered by the lights is the Kennecott slope behind us in the mining operation. So we're pretty comfortable with how we position the athletic complexes, et cetera. But again, it still is staggering to understand that the homes they will be built and lived in before we turn on our light switch, and they are moving awfully fast. Okay, moving on to our good friends at Westlake Junior High School. Good things happening on site. You'll see a lot more steel. That's really on the south side, both upper and lower, east and west wings there. And the masons are on site starting the work in the gym area. All of that block work is taller than me. I know that's not saying much, but it is taller than me. And we are seeing some good concrete slab placement in this cool weather. So again, just taking a look at the imagery, you can see that the masons are on site in the upper portion of the left-hand picture. They've stood their scaffold work. And then as you transition down to the steel work that's going up by that crane, you're starting to see just the size of those two southern wings as they come out of the ground, and slabs starting to define the footprint of the building. In that picture on the lower right, some of the walls were shorter than me, but that's not the case any longer. We're starting to see the second level B deck going in, and they're starting to get ready to even pour the flooring on those second level B decks. More concrete coming in the fax area, which is the northeasterly most portion of the building. And then mechanical equipment is moving on site. We did have a change order on this project as well. This change order was at the request of some movement of the drive aisle and increasing width in the sidewalk from the city. So the city review was taking a little bit longer than what we wanted to see for our bid window, meaning we wanted to bid it so we could finish it on time. And the best thing for us to do was wait for those city comments to come in and deal with those instead of postponing it by X months and missing a delivery date. That's what happened. The improvements that they asked, specifically those sidewalk widths being increased to a new city standard, increases student safety. Good points. Can't speak negatively about those. And then moving, if you're familiar, you have a very busy McDonald's to the south, and their patrons turn across traffic, line up, do a lot of things during the peak morning and lunch, and at that location, even evening hours. And they asked us to move our driveway a little farther to the north to give some separation for the drivers to kind of weave properly in and out of traffic. And we weren't particularly fond with that one, but we were able to accommodate, not lose parking spaces, and move forward. So we were able to go ahead and do that and accommodate that change order. Any questions?
I just want to say thanks for doing all that to get when the change order with Cypress with the grading, that was to save us that much money and time and everything. I tell everybody who did that we appreciate it.
Absolutely, and just want to, again, continue to stress that as fiduciaries of the district, our team, super conscientious about it, always wanting to save money. We're able to create the partnerships to get it done. It was a heavy lift, I think, as I look up on stage and I see Leslie Bell back there. She knew I started panicking on that change order at least 4 months ago, if not more. And so it was a big lift, but definitely the right thing to do as it came down to it. Really proud of the team.
I was just going to add just our thanks from the whole board. I hope people realize, I mean, when you're building high schools and rebuilding junior highs, these are massive projects with so many fine details, but at the same time, it's at such a huge scale of all the decisions and all the moving parts. And so just know we do appreciate it. And I think these updates are wonderful, and I love that they're posted online, so it's very transparent. People can click on. And especially for the Skyline community, Westlake community, and Cypress community in particular, they can click on the pictures and see it as it happens. So thanks to your team.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, next we'll invite our HR director, Patrick, to come up, and he's going to give us a staffing report.
Go to the blank slide.
Well, good evening, members of the board. It's a pleasure to be with you, as well as members of the superintendency. Look forward to spending the next few minutes with you and being able to paint a picture, a general picture of our staffing at this point.
Can you pull your mic? I can hear you, but I don't know if our
Sure.
online listeners can.
Yeah.
Thanks.
How's that? Is that a little bit
That's
better? Okay. All right, we'll start off. We were able to pull some of this information from our frontline application system. Historically, we've always pointed to how do people hear about jobs in Granite School District, whether that be classified or certified, hourly or contract. And so we pulled the metrics, and you can see by far, it's our district website that most of our folks will see those postings and go to. You can see we have a variety of ways that we try to spread a wide net so that we can let people know about jobs that are available in Granite School District. All of our postings not only post to our district website, but also go to K-12 JobSpot and Workforce Services, as well as quite a few of our paras. I've personally gone on and posted on Handshake so that at the university, that's the method that our university students will use. They're able to see that we have sub jobs and paraprofessional jobs and other jobs that are available that they can apply to. Anyway, interesting breakdown, and thought I'd share this with you. We also post, especially a lot of our hard to fill positions through Indeed.com to cast an even wider net. Let's focus first on our teaching positions that we've had a chance to work on since the hiring season began in March. I've tried to break it down to paint a picture with the numbers. In our elementary, so if you look at last year as opposed to this year, you can see actually the number of applicants is down a bit, right? So 21-22 school year was 1,579, and this year we've had 793 applicants for the positions that we filled. In secondary, you'll notice not quite as big a drop, but it was still a drop from 948 to 917. I mean, that's negligible or not a ton. I could venture to put meaning to those numbers, and we could spend quite a bit of time talking about that. But perhaps I'll just leave it there that this year we had fewer applicants than the year before, especially in elementary. And typically we see more applicants in elementary than we do in secondary. Just a couple things to keep. Oh, go ahead, yes.
Do you happen to have numbers from other districts? Do you guys talk about that among your?
You know, a lot of this information is, especially when it comes to our fishing holes, if you will, or where we go to recruit, that's kind of kept close to the vest. I can say this, as we meet as HR directors on a monthly basis, what we're seeing in Granite is what other districts are seeing as well. We're all dealing with the same job market, especially up and down the Wasatch Front. When you get out to rural Utah, you'll see perhaps even maybe the situation feeling a little bit more dire, but and having to rely more on individuals that don't already have a professional teaching license. But these numbers right here, I dare say, are very comparable to the surrounding districts in the Salt Lake area. Some of these numbers I just wanted to keep in mind. These applicants may have been hired outside of Granite School District. So you see these numbers. We didn't hire all of them. They may have applied to multiple districts and got picked up elsewhere. And some of them are applied for multiple positions. So they may have applied for 2, 3, 4 different teaching positions. The number of applicants also includes applicants that were at the time deemed not qualified for the position. And maybe to give a little insight, our elementary postings at the beginning of the hiring season, because we have deep enough pools of individuals or applicants that are already licensed, have a professional license, we start the season off with the requirement of them coming to us already with a professional license. It was about the beginning of July when Wyatt Bentley and myself, Wyatt's the associate director over elementary schools, started noticing that our pools were getting to the point where they were getting more shallow, and we were then going to have to open that up to individuals that had a bachelor's degree and an associate's license. And so we try to hire first those folks that already have the traditional qualifications for those teaching positions. But as our pools get dwindle or get smaller, then we have to adjust those requirements. We are currently experiencing a shortage of secondary teachers in most content areas. This would be pretty similar to last year and the year before. And you'll see this in other districts as well. This is, in fact, you'll see in just a little bit the number of Apple employees, the ones that we've hired that still need to get their license, is going to be a little higher in secondary than in elementary. Although at this point in the year now, the postings for even elementary look very close to what secondary is as far as the requirements, looking for those that are able and willing to participate in the Apple program. All right, so focus on elementary preschool. We filled 196 elementary and preschool teaching positions during this hiring season so far. When you compare that to last year, you'll notice it was more than the year before at 156. And then I want you to reflect back on the number of applicants. We had fewer applicants, but hired more positions this year. Again, these are numbers that we could spend a lot of time talking about, but I wanted to share so that you can start to have an idea or a picture of what we're doing this year. For secondary, we filled 188 secondary openings during this past hiring season, and as opposed to the 128 the year before. I wanted to give you a heads up as well. We just completed our fall staffing adjustment for elementary. And during that fall staffing adjustment based off of student enrollment, there were several schools that were found to need additional FTE because there were more students than what had been anticipated or projected back in the spring. And so at this point, I think I've put this, actually, we'll get there in just a second, but at this point, there's about 10 to 12 additional elementary postings that have gone up that we're looking to fill. Some of those are half FTE, others are full FTE. Let's take a look at the teachers that we've hired so far this year and look at some of the numbers that help paint the picture. Out of those 384 teachers, 298 are new to the profession, and we've broken that down by elementary and secondary, meaning they've just come out of a teaching program, or they have a bachelor's and they've moved from some other field and now coming into education and will be going through the Apple program. 86 come to us with experience. Many of those 86 are about 10 years into it, so mid-career teachers that we've pulled from surrounding school districts. And you can see the breakdown there between elementary and secondary. If we take a look and see what they're coming to us as far as their level of education, out of all those new hires, 258 are coming to us with bachelor's degrees, 110 with master's degrees, 2 with doctorates, and then we have 14 interns through the University of Utah and Utah Valley University who are working on their bachelor's degree and completing an internship at the same time, the elementary level. Here's the breakdown of our new hires that are teachers that we've picked up that are currently, that need to go through the Apple program or the alternative licensure program. You'll notice in secondary we have 42 of those new hires that have a bachelor's and have an associate's or are working to get that associate's to allow them then to go through the Apple program. And we've broken down those 42 secondary positions by subject. CTE, of course, a lot of those come with very specific and targeted expertise. These folks are coming from industry that may not have gone into teaching initially. And so as they come to teach our students in the secondary schools about the trades and whatnot, it's natural to see them needing to go through that program. Elementary, of course, we've got, like I said, 16, 3 out of dual immersion, 3 BTS. This is a little bit higher than what we have seen in the previous couple of years. And this could be that continued trend. You're seeing fewer individuals entering the traditional teaching programs at our universities in the state of Utah. And that's been a trend over the last 10 years or so. And as a result, you're seeing fewer graduating those programs with a professional license. Yes, go ahead.
I thought you were going to move on, and I was just going to ask you to address the special ed situation.
Oh, yes. So in special ed.
Maybe you were going to. It just
Yeah,
looked like you were.
No. So in special ed, we have 32 that are going through that alternative licensure program as well. They have the 3 years to complete that program. And this has been an area where there's been shortage of qualified special ed teachers for years and years. I still remember as a teacher being in the classroom and hearing my principal talking about that. I remember as a young assistant principal in Jordan District with those same worries and concerns as we were looking to hire. And we see that continuing right now. Yes.
So I'm wondering, are those 32 people do not have special education certification, or they don't have a teacher's license?
So in order to teach, you need
Which one are you bringing up there?
So a license.
The license.
Yeah. And that's the case with these others as well. They don't have a license. When you go to get a license, then it'll be targeted at a certain area. So elementary, it would be a K-6 license. At secondary, you have a secondary license that allows you to teach in grades 6 through 12, but then you need an endorsement to teach in that subject area. And
So those 32 have neither the license nor the endorsement.
right, so those are individuals that are coming to us with a bachelor's degree, saying from some other industry or some other field, saying, hey, you know what, I think I'd like to try giving this special ed thing a shot.
And so they get 3 years to make that happen?
Yes. Well, the nice thing about that, in all of our Apple candidates, is that it allows an individual interested in entering the teaching field to begin doing that and earn the teacher salary and have those teacher benefits while they're working on that degree. On the other side of that, we also recognize that that requires some additional supports, and fortunately, we've got a wonderful department that Lynn Rada heads up, that we assign these individuals not only mentors, but then they're there to assist them, to help them on the courses that they take. We also have Travis Rawlings that's intimately involved and meets with them regularly to give them feedback on what classes they need to take and timelines that they need to respect to get it done on time. So I alluded to this earlier, our current teacher vacancies, and this may be just a little out of date now because a couple of more postings went up on Monday. But we have our elementary teacher vacancies, which is more than what you're seeing at secondary special education. We don't typically do that fall staffing adjustment for secondary. There's not a need, but at the elementary, that's where we see that. Just a little note here, most of these teaching vacancies, like I said, the posting asks for professional license, but it allows for somebody that doesn't have that already to still apply and be considered, as long as they have a bachelor's degree and are willing to go down the route of getting the associate's license to go through that Apple program. And so most of our vacancies at this point that are posted more than likely will be filled with individuals that will need to go through that Apple program. The number of people that are left in the pool who have a professional license is quite small.
So Patrick, on the earlier slides, you said that we have a shortage of secondary teachers, but here it looks like a secondary of elementary teachers. Will you just like speak to that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, absolutely. So when I'm talking about secondary teachers, keeping in mind that we're looking at all the different subjects that we have to try and cover. And so an elementary license allows me to teach in grades K through 6. And so you just need that one license. You're not required to have an additional endorsement. For that secondary teaching, you still need the secondary teaching license. But not only that, you also need the endorsement that goes along with it. And so when you look at the pool of licensed elementary teachers, they can apply to any one of those K-6 postings and be able to teach it. For secondary, I may have an endorsement in, say, English, and there may be a math posting. I'm not going to be able to apply to that and be eligible to teach it unless I go through a program to get that endorsement.
Yeah.
So even though there's more applicants, almost thinking of it as a bunch more different positions that you need to apply for, and each one of those positions has a different set of requirements.
Like you might have 100 applicants, but none of them are none of them can teach Italian.
Correct. Yeah, no,
Right?
that is absolutely right. So the larger amount of applicants are spread out over a wider range of types of positions that have different requirements.
So what happens when you have a vacancy on October 3rd or whatever the date is today, when you have 10 elementary teacher vacancies? What's going on in those classrooms?
Right. So currently, those classrooms that are looking, and a lot of those are going to be half FTE, but they currently now can get a sub to go in those rooms. If it created a whole new classroom, there are a few classrooms where we have contract subs that have been pushed out to try and cover those classrooms until we hire somebody. Now, keep in mind, our contract sub position, we post and we try and hire as many as we can. But those individuals in a contract sub position have to have a professional license already. They're not able to be in that position and be in the Apple program. And so we purposely we try not to steal from our schools. And so if there's a quality candidate who has a professional license, we're going to make sure that they get a crack at a school and go for that posting over, say, a contract sub. Now, we're very fortunate to have a few that enjoy the contract sub position. They are one-year only positions because each year we have to try and see, do we have the funding for it? But my mind's thinking of a couple who are just dynamite, some of the best teachers that we have, and they love the flexibility that being a contract sub is. They love being able to ride in like the knight in shining armor and play hero, right? But it comes at a risk that maybe the next year there's not that position there. Now, we've had many years, subsequent or consecutive years, where we've been able to find the money to have the contract sub, and I hope for years to come that we will be able to find that money because it plays such an important role. And so, to answer the question, I wish we had more contract subs. We actually, through ESSER funds, have the ability to hire more. It's just find it difficult to find those applicants that right now are looking for that position that have the professional license. Now, to that point, we've been very aggressive in some of our recruiting, and we're lucky to have some mid-year graduates that are in our schools right now doing student teaching. We've already had a chance to go out to some of those classrooms and observe some of these teachers who are just rock stars. As the ones that have just been blowing our socks off and are just doing a great job. We've already had a chance to talk to them about the opportunity to come on, to apply and come on as a contract sub once they finish their program and are looking for a job mid-year. And we already have 2 that have said, yep, that's for us, we want to do it. So it still feels like a ways off, but boy, I'll tell you what, we're doing a happy dance thinking we got 2 more that we'll be able to add to our cadre of contract subs.
Can I just ask really quick, just for clarification, you said that they have a K-6 license, so they can teach in the junior high just 6th grade? Do they have to have a specific endorsement if they teach 7, 8, or do they have to have the endorsement when they teach 6th grade as well?
Yeah, good question. In fact, the whole licensure thing is an interesting one. So it depends on the time you got your license. So I have a 1st through 8th grade elementary license, and that's how it used to be. And then at some point after I went through my program, they changed it to K-6. So if you were to take a look at my license, and there's quite a few teachers in my situation, you can go into a junior high and teach 6th grade. And a lot of our junior highs have elected to kind of have this, that have had the 6th grade join them. 6th grade just stays with those 6th grade teachers and they rotate. The moment I try to step out of that and let's say I want to teach 7th or 8th grade math, I would have to have that endorsement to do so. So I'd have the license to do it.
Even if you have a K-8 license?
A 1st through 8th, yeah. So there's 2 parts to a license. So you have the licensure, and that allows you to teach those age groups. For elementary, because it's a generalist curriculum, you're not required to have those endorsements. But once I get into secondary, and we really start to target in on a subject, then I have to demonstrate my proficiency at that level of the course I'm going to teach.
So 6th grade, though, currently 6th grade does not have to have that endorsement.
Correct.
They're okay to have a K-6 license.
Correct.
Okay,
yeah.
Thanks.
And many of our junior high schools that have had 6th grade move to them have chosen that model where 6th grade stays together in groups and they rotate through. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
A lot of this hiring, and we've done a lot of hard work this past hiring season. And it's not all bad. I mean, it could feel like maybe all bad news, especially when we hear this in the news, teacher shortage. We're still very fortunate in Granite District when you compare the number of open positions we started the year with versus other surrounding districts. And that doesn't come by accident, it's collective effort. I would start by saying back in negotiations in the spring, the hard work done by the negotiations team, but also you as a board being willing to look at that agreement and that 4.25 COLA keeps us in the realm or competition of our surrounding districts. And then when you combine that with the other benefits that you have here in Granite School District with the health clinic, some of our early retirement incentives that exist here but don't exist in other districts, it begins to make it at least appealing and competitive when we start competing against the surrounding districts. So that's a huge deal. But also, I can't tell you how many times I've had, whether it be you as board members or superintendency members or principals or other teachers, through word of mouth, that encourage their friends and families to apply to some of the postings that we have throughout the hiring season. And it's those collective efforts that allow us to be as successful as we have been this past year. I wanted to maybe highlight, without going into a ton of detail, some of the teacher recruiting efforts. There has been a recognition over the last year and a half, I would say, of I wouldn't say untapped, but perhaps one that we could explore a little bit more so, and we've attempted to do so, and that is those individuals, those many quality employees who are hourly substitute teachers with us and paraprofessionals with us. Many of them have bachelor's degrees. Many of them already have even teaching licenses. So back in July, we as HR reached out to all of our paras and hourly subs who had a bachelor's degree and said, hey, if you'd be interested in learning more about a full-time teaching position and completing the Apple program to get the required licensure, please respond. And we actually had 36 of our, now it may not seem like a ton, but 36 is still great. 36 of our own paras and hourly subs reached out, and we've actually followed up with them and contacted them. Now, perhaps some of the principals out at the schools that have these wonderful paras or subs aren't as ecstatic about us reaching out. But this is an effort to look at folks that come from our own communities, because typically our paras and a lot of our hourly subs do come from our communities. These are folks that are great. They understand the communities that they're coming from. They love the families and kids that they're serving. And I can't think of a better place to go fishing to see if there's any interest of folks that would like to explore this education career. We've already, like I mentioned, we've already begun our recruiting efforts for next year. We've already begun going out into schools, reaching out to our student teachers. We had an excellent, it was a community day where we took our University of Utah student teachers and spent the entire day going around and showing them different aspects of the district. J.D. Talbot was able to highlight some of the things that, as a district, we do to try and meet the needs of our students in so many different unique ways. I had a chance to visit some of the schools. Even had some of our department directors come and visit with them. It was a fun experience for those students, and I think they were able to see, or at least get a little bit better idea of the many, many people it takes to run a successful district, and the lengths we go to try and meet the academic needs of our students. We will be recruiting both in and out of state this year, attending various state teacher fairs. We're using social media and trying to use some of the technology platforms to enhance those recruiting efforts as well. The professional agreement is another big draw that we see for many of our teachers. They appreciate having that a professional agreement that helps give some structure and helps them to, how would I say it, at least answer, what's it going to be like to be a teacher in Granite School District? What are the things I'm guaranteed if I come in as a teacher? And then, of course, we offer those open contracts to student teachers that we go out and visit that are just going to be dynamite. We feel like if we can make contact with them and show them our appreciation and they're having a good experience in our schools, they'll love the Granite family and want to stay here. Now, this year, this is the first time, for those of you who've been on in these presentations, usually it's ended there with the teacher portion. This year, I thought it might be good for me to take a stab at going over some of our classified and giving a 1,000-foot view, if you will, to some of our classified positions and needs. And so I'll try to do that quickly and go over that for you now. We have filled since April 1st, so I tried to line that with our hiring season for teachers, about almost 2,000 different classified contract and hourly positions. We've been pushing them through. I was going to go over this, and I won't go all over it. This just in short says, hey, we've been hearing about, and we tend to see these vacancies that focus on teacher shortages. But in red, and this comes from a white paper that came out of the ASPA Summit. Schools struggle to fill a variety of positions from bus drivers and food service workers to building leaders, technology professionals, and health service providers. This is more than just here in the Salt Lake Valley, Granite School District, or even just Utah. Nationwide, districts are struggling with this. And what I wanted to focus on at the very end, although market forces drive towards a return to equilibrium, this change doesn't happen overnight. But I think I'm going to be able to point to some things that we started last year. I remember sitting in this meeting last year and being strongly encouraged to pursue some things that we've seen some at least steps forward with. I wanted to break it down by, and this is my attempt to give you a Reader's Digest version of information on hires that we've made in some of these high need areas. Our hourly substitutes since April 1st, we've hired 122. This posting is ongoing. So on the right-hand column, I'm just showing what postings are up to try and get a feel for currently what the needs are. Our para-educators, not our special ed, I broke that into two. We've hired 231. We currently have, as far as postings that are up, 18 paras and 7 BHAs. Now that doesn't mean that that's all that we have to fill. As far as paraeducators, but this gives us an idea currently what is posted and what are schools telling us they need. There may be some that closed and they may be in the interview process, or there may be some that closed and they've reevaluated, hey, do we want to use our trust lands money this way or our other type of money that way, right? These numbers are not quite as hard and set as the teacher number, so it's a little bit more squishy. That's probably not a very good technical term to use, but it's a little more squishy. But at least it helps paint the picture. Our special ed para position, we've hired 138 since April 1st. And we have 40 that we still need, that are posted, that we need to fill, that, probably a few more than that, but the 40 that are posted. And then our special ed contract para position, Bryce Day, along with others, looked at a couple of the positions that had schools were allocated 229 hourly positions. And they said, hey, schools, if you would prefer, you can post for one contract position rather than 2 29-hour positions. And so when you look at that special ed contract para position, we filled 32 of those. There's 4 that are currently up posted.
So a lot of the paras I know are paid out of land trust and TSSA money. Are those SPED paras, are they out of SPED money? And is that the contract position as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. PLC assistant, that was a newly created position that Dr. Nye approved last year in response to overwhelming feedback from our elementary schools that were looking for ways to try and make it possible to have PLCs more often. And so you can see that we've hired 42 of those since April 1st. And there's 2 that are currently up. Okay, so continuing on, playground aid, we've hired 38. 5 of them are currently up. Secretary, and I don't know if we necessarily need to go over these. I know we're short on time, and I want to be respectful of your time. I think if you look at the highest need areas, custodial is a huge one. We've hired 319 or had transfers, but we still have quite a few that need to be filled as you look over to the ones that are currently posted. Our bus drivers, we still have, we've hired 58, both contract and hourly. We have about 7 contract positions that we still need to fill. They've been able to meet demands, but being able to hire a few more of those contract positions would be a big help. As I talk, we're very fortunate in having a very aggressive transportation department and reaching out and helping people to apply, and we've tried to help them as well. So when you look at where we're at compared to other districts, vis-a-vis bus drivers, we're in a much better position than a lot of other districts. And then the other one that comes to my mind is nutrition service worker. I met with Dana today, and I was just, you'll notice it says nutrition service worker, multiple positions. So that might be an understatement, multiple. She said in a perfect world, ideally, they could pick up 180. And I know when you hear that, you think, oh my gosh, what schools are going without food? So I asked her about that. I said, are we currently able to meet the demands at the schools? She said, right now we're all right, but if there was to be any type of sickness and we start having people having to take sick days, that's where they're going to have to get creative, like they did last year, to try and fill those positions. On a bright note, she sent me Dana sent me an email about 2-3 weeks ago, a celebratory email saying, I can't believe it, we had 11 applicants to the nutrition service workers position, and we hadn't seen that in a long time. I'm not saying that this is necessarily a trend that's going to change everything, but it's nice to see and hear that good news. I do think that, Dr. Nye and the superintendency, all of us are talking about how do we put ourselves in a position where we can be competitive to meet the needs of this job market. There's not a single, simple, easy solution. We did the employee referral program. Started that last year under the strong encouragement of you fine folks on the board. And, out of that employee referral program, we had 43 direct family and friend referrals this past year. 15 of them were actually hired in those hard to fill positions. How nice is that to be able to say we went above, we tried something out of the box and there was something that came of it. But there's still more things that we can and need to do. As you look at compensation, can we keep up? We've never been able to necessarily compete with private. However, there's a lot of things that we offer that make it nice and attractive to work for Granite School District, whether that be retirement benefits with the state, whether that be a sense of being part of something bigger than self. But that only goes so far, especially when you have inflation the way it is. And so I know together with Dr. Nye's team and with you, we'll continue to explore those possibilities and options to try and be more competitive so that we're drawing the best and a higher quantity of candidates to not only our hard to fill positions, but just all of our positions.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Patrick. That is a tremendous amount of work. And I know we recruit early, which I know helps. But thanks. Take our appreciation and gratitude back to your whole team, if you would. That's wonderful. Yeah.
I appreciate it. And thank you, board and superintendency, for this opportunity to be able to talk with you today.
Yeah. Thanks, Patrick. All right, board, we do have need of an executive session for the purpose of character and competence of an employee. And so with that, I will entertain a motion to have that meeting.
I motion that we move to executive session
I'll second.
for the purpose of character and competence of an
All
employee.
right, this is a roll call vote. Let's start with Terry. Oh, wait, just a minute.
A second.
Just a minute. I forgot a step. All right, we have a motion and a second on the table to go into executive session for the purpose of character and competence. I really should, yeah. Anyway, now it's a roll call vote. Terry?
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
And yes. So we will invite the board and the chief of staff, superintendent, and BA to stay. And we'll let everyone else grab some dinner. And we'll see you back here at 7.
Bring me a Whopper, would you?
And a waffle.
Just kidding.
Bucket of popcorn from the movies.